Welcome to our iHeartRadio album preview featuring Bon Jovi's Forever Legendary Edition. From the iHeartRadio Theater in Los Angeles, here's your host, Valentine.
Hey, welcome to our iHeartRadio album preview as we premiere songs off Bon Jovi's new album, Forever Legendary Edition, available tonight at midnight. Thanks for joining us on the radio and on the iHeartRadio app. Now, you might ask, wait a minute, didn't they release this last year? And you would be right. But this is the Legendary Edition. So what is the Legendary Edition? What sets it apart from the original version? We're gonna find out. Please welcome Jon Bon Jovi.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. Right on.
Welcome. Thanks for doing this for us.
Thank you. Traffic
pretty
was
stoked.
awful. I guess these folks must have come around 1 o'clock this afternoon to get here. Well, I walked across the hill and got here. So,
Did not.
No, it was a long way. It's all good, but thank you all. Thank you so much for being here.
So let's jump into it. Why did you feel the need to re-record the album with special guests instead of recording a completely new album?
Well, first of all, thank you for being here again and for indulging me. When we put out this album, Forever, a year ago, and it was accompanied by the documentary, Thank You, Good Night, the intention was to go out on the road, celebrate our 40th anniversary, and it was a rather joyous record that we really felt great about. But in lieu of what had happened with my vocal surgery and the rehab, I really just wasn't ready to go on the road. Right. And in this day and age, it's changed. If you don't support a record with live shows and at least television, right, the record just doesn't get a chance. Okay. And so having come through the album 2020 during COVID, yeah, and having to release this, I love, fabulous record into a black hole and not be able to promote it. And then to come out of all of the COVID pain and misery that we were all walking through together, to find joy again, to write this record, to record this record, and then your body says, nope, not yet. It was like, this string of not being able to go and promote a record is breaking my heart. So I thought, in this day and age of people doing these features, if I could call a bunch of our friends and under the guise of the title of the Beatles song, With a Little Help from My Friends, asked folks to sing on these songs, we would write something new to accompany it and, just show that my voice is healed. And then get friends to come and reintroduce a great album. And that was the play and that was the plan. And so we called old friends, new friends, country, rock, international, men, women. So it's a diverse record. A lot of different kinds of talent.
Were you making the calls yourself?
Yeah.
You did. So you call up and go,
everyone.
Hey, Jon Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is so cool.
It wasn't easy to do, and I don't care if someone is your best friend.
Really?
Sure, because you're asking them to do something that they may be busy, they may not want to, Right. I mean, it was an uncomfortable call even to dear friends, yeah, because, you're putting them all on the spot.
Well, as we talked about, 13 special guests from various genres of music, among them Bruce Springsteen, Def Leppard singer Joe Elliott, Jelly Roll, Lainey Wilson, Avril Lavigne, Jason Isbell. To me, that is absolutely amazing. I'm fascinated, though, how you chose these people to sing on the album, how you picked them out of so many different artists you could have called.
Yeah, well, you start with folks right, or have worked with in the past. Obviously, if you consider how long I've known Bruce, since before I made any records, since I was in high school. Yeah. I've known Joe Elliott for nearly 40 years. Right. So there's some old standing relationships, Robbie Williams, yes, and then new ones with Jelly Roll and Lainey and Marcus King, who had all participated in the Grammy Music Cares, where I was the honoree last year. And so they all came and did interpretations of songs from our catalog. And then I immediately fell in love with both Jelly and Laney. And believe it or not, Marcus was the biggest hit, like at my table where Bruce was sitting and Paul McCartney was sitting. They were like, who's that guy? So Marcus was a huge hit that night. And all those guys said yes to us. So then it really just became this thing. Now we need a girl. Let's find the powerful voiced girl. Oh, Avril's a great choice. Yeah, let's call Avril. And that's really just how it went down. Karin Leon, the Mexican singer, he's sort of like the Garth Brooks, if you will, of Mexico. And because I've sung in Spanish before, he agreed to We Made It Look Easy in Spanish. For folks in America that don't know Robbie Williams, of course, he's a huge international star and been around almost as long as we have. And so, asking Robbie to sing on that same song for Europe was a great call.
Right. Well, let's start with Hollow Man, which features your friend and mine, Bruce Springsteen. I've never met him. Just thought I'd say that. No, I just thought I'd say it. Sorry. Easy call to make. Like you said, he's your friend since the 70s, way back when, right?
Well, it's still not an easy call. But when I was playing him demos of the album before we recorded it, he called me even the next day. And the song that stuck out to him was Hollow Man. Like when you get a call from, the premier American songwriter and Bruce Springsteen saying, Johnny, that song. And you go, whoa, I've written one here. So then I reminded him a year later, remember that time you called me, told me how much you love the song? That's the one I want you to sing.
Yes.
And so, of course, he said yes and did an incredible job.
It's our iHeartRadio album preview featuring Bon Jovi's Forever Legendary Edition.
John, you make your home mainly in New Jersey, but hearing you might be leaving the Garden State, hitting the road a bit, traveling around.
It's a nice idea. I finally packed a bag. It's been too long since I've held a microphone professionally. This radio microphone doesn't really count.
Doesn't count for you?
I think it's time. Yeah.
Were you gonna hit the UK, Ireland, I hear as well?
Yeah, just let's put it this way: we're getting our feet wet in a few major cities, London, Dublin, New York, and we'll just build from there.
But tell me about this. I also hear a residency at MSG.
That's right. That's the idea. I've always wanted people to come to us instead of me,
perfect,
instead of me going there. So that's the idea.
I think your musical palette has expanded over the years. This album, I believe, would be no exception. You've been making a name for yourself in Nashville as well, I hear. Not only with your bar and restaurant, JBJ's, right? But
That's
also
true.
with the initial recording of Forever, that was done there.
Yeah.
And on this album, you have some local flavor folks associated with Music City, including Jason Isbell, The Warren Treaty, Lainey Wilson, Jelly Roll, who joins on Living Proof. How did the collaboration come to be, and what was it like working with Mr. Roll? I'm not at a first name yet. I don't know.
Jelly, I didn't know him before the beginning of 2024. Okay, so the big album came out, and he had done Music Cares, and big personality, big voice, great songs, great lyric. The only thing bigger than all of that is his big heart, and I got to know him, and then I got to know Bunny, his wife, and one of the first interviews that he did was me interviewing him for Interview Magazine. And I also realized how smart he was, how worldly he was. So this didn't just happen for him overnight. He's been paying his dues for a long time, and he came from rap, and he obviously lived a very hard life, got himself into some, messes that he wishes that he hadn't been in. But look what he's done with that. He's a very, very special man, and he's here for a great purpose in this business and on this planet. So that was an easy one. And a song like Living Proof, because it says for the sinners, that kind of a lyric, which I've been writing for the better part of 40 years, was natural for him. And he could deliver on it. This family tree's got nothing left to prove now. Right. And I think that he can relate to that lyric.
I feel like there probably is, God, there must have been so much excitement when you talked to them too, because he seems like that type of guy, like, hey, do you want to do this? I go, hell yeah, I want to do this. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that was a reaction.
That's exactly, that's him. Yeah. He didn't hesitate. It was really great when you got that kind of response from he or anyone else on the record when they say hell yeah. But he's a natural and he's a pro. And there's nothing more you can say than he's just a consummate pro.
Which is so funny because as I sit here, I feel like I'm having that reaction too. I'm like, here we are, iHeartRadio, so many people enjoying this. And I'm like, I remember when I wore my tassel jacket and saw you at the Worcester Centrum. And I'm like, right,
wow.
Remember back in the day?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here I am interviewing you on a stage for iHeartRadio.
Thank you. Thanks, Valentine.
Crazy.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
John, another thing I think that sets this album apart from the original, besides these amazing collaborations, is the inclusion of a brand new song, Red, White, and Jersey.
Yeah, thank you. Very happy with it. You know, I can't wait to play these songs live. That's the idea, is, to get out there and do them. New song, anthemic. I can imagine what it'll be like, to play it in front of people, because the title does say Red, White, and Jersey, but it's just that wherever you're from fits into the slot there, and it was an homage to my life with my wife at home, but the idea was I wanted to make up this joyous record, and we needed a little cherry on top, so Jersey came along, and like I said, I just can't wait to play them again.
But I guess when you think about it, we would say Bruce Springsteen. He's right there, king.
Yeah.
Crown Prince.
No, that's me.
Crown Prince, John Bon Jovi.
Just the Prince.
Just a Prince?
The boss is king.
The boss is king?
Absolutely.
Gotcha. But I did hear, speaking of that for a split second, did I hear you have a rest stop on the Garden State Parkway?
That's
named
when
after
you know
right?
you're big, yeah.
Yeah.
When they name toilets after you, you know you're big.
Mile marker 124, if you're in the area, check it out. It's a beautiful rest stop.
No, that thing, you see in New Jersey, like the biggest thing they can give you is stuff like that. We don't have, high rises. Right. So yeah, my high school and the rest stop and the theater and it's all kooky stuff.
But we joke about like the phone calls about you making them, how important that is. You're calling an artist. Who was the first person that called you and said, "Listen, we've got a rest stop and we want to name it after you"?
Someone from the governor's office calls. Because actually, as goofy as it sounds, it's the people that you're in the company of, whether it's Frank Sinatra or Alexander Hamilton. I mean, it's not just Joey from down at the bakery. It's guys that are Thomas Edison. Without Thomas Edison, you and I wouldn't be here today. So the kind of people that they name these places after, millions of people go. The funny thing is the kind of phone call I get from celebrity X or Y that's going to Atlantic City to perform or going to see their cousins in Jersey, or call you and go, "Hey, yo, what is this?" And Sebastian Maniscalco leaves me a text, and I go, "Sugar." I go, "This is going to absolutely be a skit in your next routine." Yeah. So, I know I'm wide open to that. But, Dave, welcome to Jersey. Yeah.
Hey, by the John Bon Jovi toilet, I'm hanging out there. Hey. So, Forever Legendary Edition features some very strong and very unique female singers, including Tanya Trotter from The War and Treaty, Lainey Wilson, Avril Lavigne you spoke about earlier. What about them and their vocal styles intrigued you to bring them to the table?
All strong ladies with strong voices. These songs are not for the faint of heart. These aren't whispers, they're all screams. And so to have each and every one of them on there, they also had to understand and tell the stories that we've written. And so each of them got it completely. They wrapped themselves around the character and became it. With Avril, for instance, there was no necessarily a girl part, but she got it. The song's called Living in Paradise, and it became a boy-girl story when she took on the character of it. Tanya and Michael Trotter from The War and Treaty, she's got that Aretha voice, big. They're like old-time soul, great, big singers. And they took The People's House, which was, socially conscious song, and took it to another level. I was really inspired when I wrote this song and it was about the storytelling, but they were about preaching the story. They took it to church.
Right.
And so again, great vocalist. And to me, the great singer and the one that I met as a result, again, of Music Cares, was Lainey Wilson. Right. She took I Wrote You a Song and made it her own. She took that melody and twisted it and turned it, put it in a blender. So now the harmony really became the melody, because she just, all power to Lainey. And I met her that Grammy weekend in Los Angeles. And I just happened to be at this event where she was asked last minute to substitute for somebody to sing the Barbie song, I'm Just Ken.
Stop.
Yeah, but the point is, she just like tips her cowboy hat and goes, all right. And then she nails it.
Yeah.
Then she comes in, she does Born to Follow from the Circle album. She goes, all right, and nails it. Then she does the song with Jelly that she made, big hit. And then she comes around and says, just leave this to me. I'll send it to you when I'm done. Wow. So, I mean, she's just a master. The girl is just, and she's a guy's gal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean by that? I mean, she's a guy's gal.
Well, let's talk about that. When you do these sessions, how many are studio sessions? How many are hangs? Like, I feel like somebody like Jelly or somebody would have been like just a massive hang.
Yeah.
Was everybody a hang? Did you get burgers and beers or
No,
what'd you do?
sometimes the people were on the road. Everybody was somewhere. No, it wasn't. Whoever's in town come down to this studio and we all do it when you're here, because nobody was anywhere at any given time. And it took quite a few months to get everybody and their schedules and to call the right people. I was in the room for just a couple of them, to be honest. Yeah, not all of them.
So when we look at, in particular, Avril, you make the phone call to her, you know the history of her music and everything, and she's just an amazing, amazing performer and star. Mm-hmm. How did that phone call go? How did that conversation go? And she obviously knows your music, loves your music, but wasn't necessarily growing up with that early Bon Jovi stuff like I was.
Because she's much younger, I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because in fairness, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm going to imagine that she was certainly exposed to it or knew it from the radio.
Right, of course.
Because she was much younger. But she has her own thing, that skater boy, the white tank top and the black tie. Like, she had her own character. Yeah. And now I realize that she has that second generation of fan now, too. So she also has a lot of respect, and she has a big voice. And John Shanks, my co-producer, buddy of mine, he had worked with her in the past. So they were comfortable and confident together in the studio, and she delivered.
When you released Forever last year, you said, for the first time in 10 years, I have joy. I'd lost touch with it for a number of reasons. I set out to find it, writing, making this record. At the completion of the project, I realized I was at peace. I really found joy. Talk to me about the joy that is in your life right now.
It's been a long journey, getting around my health, first and foremost. Coming through that, which was not easy, but it was purposeful. I think, like everything, that every obstacle is the way. And you learn lessons from these obstacles along the way. But I do love to make music, and the idea that you write a song from your heart that means something to you, you get to share it with these wonderful folks who come year after year to hear these songs, and I appreciate that every single time. So, like I said, with 2020, it was a very topical record. It was a very interesting time in the world's history. With This House Is Not For Sale, it was much more of a statement record. We had to come and reinvent ourselves yet again. So by the time I got to Forever and what was going to be the 40th anniversary, the theme was simple. It was joy. We wanted to be there.
Right. You're in a good spot. By the way, the voice sounds better than ever to me, and I've heard a lot of you over the years. So everything sounds great there. Congratulations.
I appreciate that.
Last time we talked, you were talking about planning a wedding. Now you're a peepaw.
I am.
Or you're a J-paw. What are
Papa.
you? A papa? Is that what you are, Papa?
Papa John, like the pizzeria.
But what is that amazing feeling? That's got to be a ton of joy.
Yeah.
The first grandchild. That's amazing, right?
Crazy. Yeah, we're ecstatic, and that is really what life is about, isn't it? Your family, and then your kids, and then now your kids are having kids.
Right.
It's mind blowing. But it's a beautiful time in our family's lives.
So you look at Jake as a dad then, and it does have to be full circle. I'm not there. My kid's 17, so please God, let's wait a little bit. But it must be so special as a dad to see your son as a dad.
Like we'd said when they dropped babies off at our house some 33 years ago, they don't come with a manual.
Oh, God, no.
That first night when the door finally closes and it's just you and your significant other in there and with a baby, and you go, where's the instructions? Yes. I don't know. And there aren't any instructions. That's God's, trick. And as the chapters go and the kids grow, you learn together as you go along the way. And then you pass on what knowledge they're willing to accept, and then they got to find their way.
Of course. And I bet, like for many parents, that first birth, that first drive home from the hospital was probably the slowest drive you've ever made in your entire life, right?
I remember it very, very well. Yeah.
It's like a parade.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's great. In addition to last year's Release It Forever, there's also a documentary we talked about before, Thank You, Goodnight, the Bon Jovi story. So here we are a year later. Are you still feeling the same about that documentary? Has it ebbed and flowed for you?
That's a good question because truthfully, you don't know when you're in it how you're going to feel about it in the years to come. I would have to go back and watch it again. You know, it's been a year, maybe a little more than a year that it's been out. But I haven't gone back to look at it because I was intricately involved in it and the promotion of it. But I do remember that when we were done, I was very proud of the 4 episodes and very proud that Gautam Chopra captured.
Well, I think it was great because we got to see the history of you, the history of how the band went and you growing up through all that stuff. Because, you know, that's important for people to have.
Yeah. All that, the archiving is all part of it for the history. And then the parallel storyline of the surgery and some of the losses, you know, losing Alec. You know, that's another bridge that nobody ever intends to cross. And then, you know, Richie's leaving the band 13 years ago now. You know, who would have ever thought that would have happened? But through it all, the bond just grows deeper, and you're grateful for the time that you shared with Alec and Richie, and you're grateful for the time that you have with Phil X and John and Everett.
Right. And I guess inherently, the music over the years is the bond that kind of holds it all together.
Every phase of it, from Runaway before there was a band, to Slippery when we became that iconic thing. Throughout the years, you know, with the reinvention with It's My Life, or the countryfication of Who Says You Can't Go Home, you know, the reestablishing yourself with This House Is Not For Sale. So everything is just another chapter in our lives. And this is my 18th album. You know, I've been doing this for a long, long time. Same record company, same record deal.
Wow.
You know, yeah.
That doesn't happen, honestly.
No,
People
I've been there longer
pull the curtain back in the business. That doesn't happen.
I've been at the label, I think, longer than anybody else. You know, for some 43 years now, I've been signed to the same record deal. And I'm very proud of that, too, because it's, you know, Bob Dylan even left Columbia and went back. You know, Bruce has been with Columbia 50 years. Streisand was with one label. Like, you know, it's a badge of honor to be with one record company.
So a 17-year-old kid that goes into high school on a Monday, and the teacher says, "What'd you guys do this weekend?" And little Billy goes, "Oh, I was playing at a football game." Susie goes, "Oh, I was hanging out with my friends." And you go, "I was singing with Bruce Springsteen."
Yeah.
I mean, what an amazing career, what an amazing life, right?
Those guys were very integral to my being here today because it made the impossible seem possible. I had the posters on my wall of Led Zeppelin and AC/DC and The Who, but they were bigger than big. And they were over across the pond, you know, and it was on the radio if you were, you know, fortunate enough to buy a record or see them maybe. But you couldn't touch that. But 25 miles south of my house, there was 17 of them in the bar. The E Street Band and the Jazzberry Jukes, there's 17 members between them. Chances were that they were going to be there, and then you befriend them, and then they mentor you, and then, you know, relationships were built. So it's cool now that we can all sit around like old men and reminisce, but you know, it's also astounding to me. You know, I keep talking about my old friend like this, but I went to a screening of Deliver Me From Nowhere, and I'm sitting right next to Bruce, and I said, "Buddy, this is a time machine because it's 1982 Asbury Park. This is the summer I write Runaway." When he was playing with Cats on a Smooth Surface, the guy in the band was named Bobby Bandiera. He became our sideman. He was the second guitar player on a bunch of tours. Bobby would play cover band music. I had written Runaway. I had an original band, the Wild Ones, was 2 blocks over. But every Sunday night, Bruce would go and play with Bobby. And son of a bitch, it was like, go home. Because the original bar band, people have to come and pay attention of you writing your own songs. We finally would go on at 7:30 at night in a bar. Because we all said, screw it. By 9 o'clock, he's going to be at the Pony. We're going to have to shut down because everybody's going over to the Pony. Because Bruce would play with the cover band on Sunday nights, which was the Wild Ones' night at the Fast Lane. So I'm watching the film, and I go, that's me in the crowd.
No.
I'm the kids watching. Right. And when they're in the studio in the film, and they're in Studio A, that's the room I recorded Runaway that year. So this was all pretty freaky to me.
For sure. And when you look back at that last, question on this, obviously you were destined for this. This is just, it's in your DNA from the start, in my opinion. But you have so many other loves from charity work and stuff that we should touch on JBJ's Soul Kitchen in a minute. But you love football.
Sure.
Now, if you could have flipped a switch, because I see it all the NFL games, and I see you hanging out with Robert Kraft, would you be a tight end for the Pats or the Giants in a heartbeat? Right?
No. I couldn't have even been the punter, for God's sake. I was the mascot for the Patriots. That's as far as I could go.
Did you ever try out for a football team? No?
I played in Pop Warner's the last time I played,
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Ryan Tedder from One Republic on Seeds. How did that come about, that collaboration?
Well, he actually co-wrote this song with me. Okay. And at the end, I had so much fun because of the homage to the Beatles and George Martin's string arrangement. And so this was a unique song, an album track, but a great story that we are all, in fact, seeds trying to find our place in the weeds. Are we going to grow up to be roses or weeds? And I was staring out of my apartment building in Manhattan, in this apartment I had, and it just came to me. There's a deep crack in the sidewalk near the front porch of my, the front one on my street, whatever I say. Hey, if you don't trip, you'll walk by it. There's a whole world you don't see. And I'm just like, thank you, Lord. Here we go. And start scribbling out these lyrics. So the song was easy to finish. And so I was fortunate enough to co-write it with Ryan. So he was the evident and obvious choice to sing on it. And then we had a lot of fun getting David Campbell, who happens to be Beck's father, to do the string arrangement. Oh, wow. And many people wouldn't know that unless you're in the record business. But he has done strings on a whole lot of rock records, many of ours as well. Yeah. And so to get David Campbell back into the fold and say, go full George, let's go full George on this. So it's a wonderful album track, and one I'm very proud of the lyric. And featured vocalist is Ryan Tedder, and also the collaborator.
It's our iHeartRadio album preview featuring Bon Jovi's Forever Legendary Edition.
Welcome back to the iHeartRadio album preview of Bon Jovi's Forever Legendary Edition. Do any of these songs have a different meaning now that they feature different singers?
I don't know that they have different meanings, but I've been jokingly saying the songs have gotten betterer. I really liked them before, but some of these versions have given them a new life, an additional life. Like I said, with Laney on I Wrote You a Song, with Warren Treaty on The People's House, with Legendary and James Bay, of course with Bruce. And so, I just think that the whole record was something I'm very proud of, and that's why we went through this exercise, but they made them all their own.
So not necessarily new life, but different life.
Just I think they made them on steroids.
Right, I love that. Let's get to Lainey Wilson for a second. Let's talk about her. The biggest thing in country music right now, one of the sweetest people out there. I'm a big fan of hers myself.
Yeah.
Tell me about that collaboration.
Well, like I've said before, I'm such a fan of hers, having met her at Music Cares in the beginning of 2024, and that she's just so versatile. When she did the Music Cares event and sang Born to Follow, she nailed that. When she came to a Grammy party and was thrust into a situation to sing the Barbie song, I'm Just Ken, and made that her own. Then she jumps up with Jelly Roll and does their duet. So I knew that she was going to be able to deliver for me on I Wrote You a Song, but where she took it was beyond my comprehension, to be honest with you. And I love her so much because she's a guy's gal. And I remember when her and I once got together in Nashville, and we were both, talking about Jelly and how she had met Jelly and how they'd been buddies together. And she says, I'd fight somebody for him. And I went, that's a song title, sit down. Yeah. So we wrote a song. Someday we should use it. But she gave me this great, title. Yeah. I'd fight somebody for you. I was like, that's a great song title.
It's interesting when you hear Lainey's voice there and yours, and for so many of your friends on the album, you could almost hear how that would sound acoustic.
I could hear it in a movie. Good. I think if the world knew who she was, she could have been in A Star Is Born and won an Academy Award. I think so with that voice. I mean, I could have imagined Bradley Cooper and Gaga singing that song in that movie, you know? It sounds like that kind of a song for that kind of a voice, and she's just such a beautiful and talented girl. I can't say enough about her.
Love it. Let's get to our first fan, iHeartRadio Talkback.
Hi, John. This is Dee Dee from Pennsylvania. As a songwriter, I would imagine you're always writing or working on new songs. If that is the case, have you written any songs recently that are of a social commentary nature as you have done in the past?
Good question. Thank you for that. I am writing a bit, and there's a bit of, they haven't got a theme yet because there's just a couple of songs here and there. One has a social commentary, one is probably more personal. So, you know, they're varying. It's way early, but to me, that's the greatest joy that I have is when you finish a new song. And it's still in the notebook. But when it's in the notebook, you know you've given life to something. You know the potential of that. So yeah, I am writing a bit now, and looking forward to working them up with the guys. You know, once we're through these rehearsal phases.
Let's get to another talkback. Here's another question.
Hi, John Bon Jovi. This is Rebecca from Riverside, and I just want to say I am a huge fan. I love your music, and I have a question for you. I remember back in the 80s, maybe the 90s, you gave away your family home on MTV. Whatever became of that, I never knew. Let us know. Love you. Bye.
That's fun. That's true. I forgot. Well, I didn't really forget, but it's been a long time since I thought about my childhood home was bought by and given away by MTV. My folks were going to move, and MTV approached them and said, "We'll buy the house and then give it away as a contest," which they did, and it's turned over several times. But it's still there. You know, the house is still there. Sure, the house on the street. It's back in my hometown. And if you go to the rest stop, and you get off at the, you turn left and you go down to the light, you turn right, you end up at my house. You go by the high school that's named after me. You get off the rest stop that's named after me, and you go down the street where I used to live.
Hop on Zillow, people. Go find it. Off you go. All right, one more talkback. If you don't mind, you've been great. Let's have one more.
Hey, I'm Letty. I'm from Pittsburgh, and it has been my dream to meet you, John Bon Jovi, since I was 11 years old. I'm 24 now. I was born in 2001, and so I guess I'm just wondering what it's like to know that young people, even people as young as I was when I found you, still love and adore you, and you are, their favorite singer, their favorite person, their favorite band.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you. That's very sweet. I don't really know how to say anything other than thank you. With somebody young like that's hearing the music and the second generation of our fan, if you will. And then, we've got a third generation of fan now. But when you're around for 40X years, it's like we were saying to Paul McCartney, I never knew a time without the Beatles. You never knew a time without the Rolling Stones, And so young kids that find music and a catalog of their favorite artists will stumble over something, and if that artist is still active, they get to say, I've never known a world without it. And it's cool. It's absolutely mind-blowing that we get to say that.
All right, it's our iHeartRadio album preview featuring Bon Jovi's Forever Legendary Edition. I'm Valentine, #iHeartBonJovi. Once again, get your copy tonight at midnight. The next song is My First Guitar. It's special guest Marcus King. Is there a story how you put this together?
Well, Marcus being the blues guitarist that he is and great vocalist, it was evident and obvious that he would be my first choice to do this. And he made such an impression at that Music Cares, and he stood out so to the other artists. He gravitated to this. Now, the song is about my first electric guitar, which I had then sold as a kid for $100 to a kid in the neighborhood. 45 years later, he sells it back to me. And
how much?
Not a lot. He didn't. He could have. He doesn't. He was great. And I'm my part of the story. I believe this to be true. is I don't think he ever took it out of the case. Really? Yeah, I don't think he ever did, because it's still, it had 5 strings on it, not 6. It had some sweat, dried up on it. And, the case was basically made of paper to begin with. It was a cheap guitar. But he brought it to one of the Soul Kitchens, and I met his daughter, and we took a photo, and it's magical. So the first thing I did was I tuned it up, and I sat with the 5 strings. I didn't put a 6 string, even bother putting it on it. And I wrote this song.
Once again, please get your copy tonight at midnight. We have one more song in collab. It's Waves with Jason Isbell. Connecting with him musically had to be an absolute blast, I would assume.
Yeah, that was one I was in the studio for as well. He's one of my favorite lyricists. If you don't think that Elephant or Cover Me Up or just some of the songs you wish you'd written. So he came in the studio early on in the process and wanted to do this one. And he's just awesome. He's such a great performer, a great player, great singer, a great guy. And I got to be there for it. It was fun.
But neat, his kid that grew up in northern Alabama and you in Jersey connecting musically like that is special.
When I went to his show, and he made sure that his mom and his aunts and his cousins were all there because I was coming, and they cut his musical teeth listening to us. And they all told me the stories and how he used to play Wanted Dead or Alive as a kid. And, so you're sitting there with one of the great lyricists now and hearing these stories from his aunt and his mom. It was a treat.
I love that.
Yeah, it was a treat.
Well, John, you're gracious. I appreciate the time. Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you all.
Congratulations and everything. Bon Jovi's Forever Legendary Edition out tonight midnight. I am Valentine. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
This has been our iHeartRadio album preview featuring Bon Jovi's Forever Legendary Edition. Woo! Thanks for joining us and good night.